Is porn harmless in a marriage?
Harmless?
Yeah.
No.
Is porn cheating?
I get asked this a lot. If my spouse is using pornography, is that cheating? When we talk about betrayal trauma, and we have expressed this many times before, betrayal trauma is a deep and wide concept.
You're scrolling through his phone while he's in the shower. Your heart is racing. You're shaking. And there it is. The thing you were afraid to find. That crappy moment you wish never happened. That moment when everything you thought you knew about your relationship shatters. Or maybe you're watching your partner become more and more distant, spending more hours alone with their devices, and that pit in your stomach keeps growing. Because sometimes the hardest truth isn't what you find, it's living with the fear of what you might find. But here's the thing, you're not alone. And that knot in your stomach, that voice telling you that something's wrong, it deserves to be heard. Maybe you're here because you've been lying awake at night, replaying every conversation, every strange reaction, every time they pulled their phone away when you walked into the room. Your friend's telling you you're overthinking it. Your partner says you're being paranoid. But that feeling in your gut, it won't go away. Or maybe you've already found what you are afraid of, and now you're stuck in this bizarre reality where you're supposed to just go about your day, make dinner, go to work, laugh at jokes, while carrying this weight that makes it hard to even breathe sometimes. The craziest part, you're probably beating yourself up right now, wondering if you're making too big a deal out of this, questioning if you even have the right to feel this devastated. After all, it's just porn, right? That's what TikTok keeps telling you. That's what your partner might be telling you. But if that is true, why does it feel like your whole world is falling apart? Yeah, spoiler alert, it's not okay. But before we go any further in this episode, there's something really important you need to know first. You are perfect. You are brilliant and lovely. And no part of you deserves to experience this kind of betrayal. But it does happen. And if you're here, then you found a place for help. In fact, we pulled out all the stops and we called some very special friends of ours to speak to you. This couple, Jeremy and Tiana Wiles, have helped over 2 million men quit porn. Seriously. That's not the purpose of this episode, but there's something really important they're going to share with you that will change the way you view your relationship forever. Whether you are the partner dealing with the trauma of discovery, or you're the partner struggling with porn use, or just someone who stumbled on this video and can't look away, we see you. No judgment here. We're going to explain exactly what happens in your body when you experience this betrayal. 4 signs to look for if you think this is happening in your relationship, but you aren't sure. What couples can do to overcome this behemoth monster. And how this crappy moment that feels like D-Day can potentially become a turning point in your life. Marriage Health with James and Terry Craft.
Is it wrong for a wife to ask their husband if they're watching porn? And is it wrong for a wife to demand that their husband does not watch porn?
No. I'm going to just say it straight out. It should never have anything to do with any part of your marriage. My wife and I haven't always had this. There was a period of time in my life I did have an addiction to pornography, and I was hiding that from her at the highest level. I'm like, I don't want her to know this, because there was such deep shame inside of me. If you knew that I was struggling there, then you would leave me. And I used that as an excuse to continue to live in secrecy, which was my responsibility. I do not project that on her, because she didn't leave me, and she walked with me, and she loved me, and she cared for me. And 32 years later here, we're sitting in marriage, and we love each other more now than ever before. But we had to go through some hard times of discovering that.
And so, we know how hard this is, but we also know that there is hope when someone really wants change and someone really wants healing.
And before you roll your eyes, trust me, I understand. This isn't just another "we fixed everything and now we're experts" story. This is about real people finding their way back to each other, one difficult conversation at a time. Maybe you're afraid to even hope that things could change. Maybe you're not sure you even want them to. And you know what? That's okay too. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to help you understand what's happening to you right now.
A partner who is experiencing the betrayal trauma from their spouse partaking of a secret habit or addiction or unwanted sexual behavior, that is excruciating. Because what I thought was isn't. What I believed isn't. When I said that I was experiencing some pain from some of the things that were happening, whether that was distance or isolation or addictive cycles or something in our relationship, maybe even sexual ways that my partner is asking me to do things that I don't feel comfortable with, and I'm like, where is this coming from? All those kinds of things that sort of have been chipping away from the relationship and me feeling like, hey, something's off, something's wrong, and then being told something different, and then finding out later that I was just being lied to, well, absolutely, their reality has just been blown up. And again, our society doesn't want to be empathic toward things. I don't want to be worrying about anybody else but my own thing. If I don't want to take responsibility about how my actions might be impacting someone else, then yeah, you know what? I can easily justify. But if I'm going to actually sit back and think about it, I'm partaking of a sexual act. If I'm in a relationship with somebody and they're partaking of another sexual aspect of their relationship, yes, that is a betrayal to your spouse. So you can't tell me that me partaking of a sexual act on a normal basis, whether that's in my mind or my body, isn't going to feel like a betrayal to my spouse. And if you're lying about it and you're deceitful about it, or you're not telling all the truth about it, betrayal number 2. So now not only am I experiencing a sexual tearing to my relationship, now I'm having to experience a betrayal in terms of the deception.
Living in constant deception will make you become a detective in your own home, watching for signs, analyzing behaviors, trying to piece together a truth you're not even sure if you want to find. I know some of you are watching this thinking, I can't prove anything, but something feels off. You've been gaslighted so many times you don't even trust your own instincts anymore. Well, we're about to change that. Right now, we're going to show you 4 specific red flags to watch for. And these aren't just random hunches. They're documented patterns that show up consistently in relationships affected by secret porn use or any kind of betrayal. Stay with us. We'll help you separate fact from fiction. Red flag number 1, they're distancing from you.
I sense there's something going on here. What are some red flags I could be looking for? 1, you'll start to see this push away and this disconnect with you emotionally, could disconnect with you spiritually, and disconnect with you physically because they are fulfilling somewhat of their sexual needs somewhere else or with somebody else or with something else.
Red flag number 2. Long bathroom breaks with their phone.
Red flag 2 is when your husband or your wife, we're talking about husbands right now, is in the bathroom 20 minutes long and they're sitting there and they took their phone with them in there. Why? Are they just looking up the scores? Or is there something else going on inside there? The door's closed, privacy, and they're able to do whatever they want. And I hear people say, well, I got stomach issues, but I call BS. And I'm saying, I don't think that's really the reality. I believe there's a secrecy that's taking place in those closed doors, okay? Behind closed doors, they want to do what they want to do and look at what they want to look at.
Red flag number 3, they're protective of their devices.
If your phone of your spouse is locked down, you can't get on it. Red flag. Because there should be no secrecy there. Social media, text messaging, things that you can look at where all the conversations. You should know who your spouse is connecting with. And so that there's no secrecy there at work or in public and private and so on and so forth. And so you want to make sure that you're able to say, hey, when I pick up my phone, how does my spouse react? Does he get freaked out? What are you looking at my phone for? Or you say, hey, no worries, you can look at my phone. You can look at it.
Red flag number 4, staying up late alone.
Another one is, do you guys go to bed together? So many times where a wife will go to bed, she'll be in bed, and then the husband's outside in the family room doing what? Watching sports, watching ESPN. Do that at another time. Go to bed with your spouse. And so that there's connection there. And that you have, time to talk and converse, or you even have time to be romantic and have sex with one another. It's one of those things. If you don't, then all of a sudden you're fulfilling your needs somewhere else. You're never going to connect at a deeper level. Well, there's a red flag if you're always finding yourself going to bed by yourself. And so those are major red flags.
Quick pause. If you're sitting there with your heart pounding, thinking, how do they know exactly what I'm going through? First, take a deep breath. You're among friends here. And hey, maybe hit the like button too. Not just for the algorithm, but because someone else who needs to hear this might find it. There are way too few videos out there to help betrayed partners understand that they aren't the crazy ones. And sometimes healing starts with knowing that you're not crazy for feeling this way.
Does the wife have the freedom or the right to ask their husband, are they viewing pornography? Yes, 100%. Ask, because you know what? You need to know what's happening. Honesty. You've heard us many times. We adopted this pyramid of intimacy within a relationship.
Okay, let me share something that will completely change the way you understand relationships. There's this brilliant concept called the intimacy pyramid, developed by Joanna Rapsmith, Matthew Rapsmith, and Dan Drake. And trust me, this explains exactly why secret behaviors hurt so much. Picture building a pyramid, and the foundation, the part everything else rests on, that's honesty, pure, simple truth. Without it, everything else above starts to crumble. The next layer up comes safety, that feeling that you can relax, that you don't have to be constantly on guard. On top of that, trust. But here's the thing, you can't just skip the trust. It has to be built on that foundation of honesty and then safety. Then, and only then, can you have vulnerability. The ability to show up completely as yourself, fears and all. And finally, at the very top, real intimacy. Not just physical closeness, but that deep soul-level connection we all crave, to be heard, to be seen. Now, what happens when someone keeps secrets? That foundation of honesty, gone. And just like that, the whole pyramid starts to shake. The safety crumbles, trust shattered, and without those pieces, real vulnerability and intimacy become impossible. Suddenly makes sense why discovering your partner's hidden porn use feels like your whole relationship is collapsing, doesn't it? Because it literally is, from the foundation up.
If you don't have truth within your relationship, you'll never be able to experience eventually what's the very top is intimacy. Truth has to be the foundation. Couples, when they come to Terry and I require, if there's sexual addiction, pornography addiction, I will ask, if I'm working with a guy and the guy has the issue and the challenge there, I'll ask him to write his whole sexual history out and his story out, but then I'll ask him to do a polygraph. Yes, I just said a polygraph.
A lie detector might help get the truth from him.
Were you born in the United States?
Yes.
Do you smoke?
Yes.
Do you know who shot Corporal Smith?
No.
What in the world? A polygraph. What happens there, it creates an environment of understanding that, yeah, that's all the truth. There's nothing else that's going to come out later on and blindside me. I have all of it. Now I'm able to make a choice of what I want to do with this, because what happens is when I have truth, I start to feel safe in that. You have to be honest. You have to be open. You have to be transparent. There has to be truth in your relationship. But then you interject here pornography and there's sexual activity. Does that impact that pyramid? 100%. It shatters it, and you'll never have true intimacy. You'll be cohabitating with one another, going through the motions and the actions. And we have dealt with so many people who said, we'll just continue this way until our kids get older and they move away, then we'll dissolve it because we don't want to hurt them. And they never deal with it. They never deal with it. That's not the way we're called to live. There's so much more.
Some couples think they can get by without intimacy, just cohabitate, tolerate each other till their kids move out. And honestly, we can hold space for that if that's your decision. But the cost of betrayal trauma is more significant than losing intimacy as a couple. Here's something that might blow your mind. Betrayal trauma can literally change your brain chemistry.
Some people think, what I do in my spare time isn't hurting anybody. But what we find in research is that when there is pornography happening on a regular basis and there's deception around it, and then our partner finds out about that, that can replicate post-traumatic stress in their life. So basically, it creates like a PTSD. That's not just a little thing. That's a traumatic rupture in a relationship.
So you're saying that when somebody consumes pornography, their partner can actually experience PTSD?
Yes, that deceptive cycle is absolutely devastating.
I know, right? Finally, an explanation for why you feel like you've been losing your grip.
There's some things inside of you, there's an enteric system inside your body that when you start to feel that there's something off, and you feel it, there's things inside the lining of your stomach that kind of trigger off, and you start to realize, it doesn't line up. There's a red flag here, and I don't know what it is, but there's something that's not right. I want you to pause, and I want you to listen to yourself, and I want you to validate your feelings, because there might be something off then. And you're thinking your spouse might be dealing with some kind of sexual addiction, which might be pornography, or even some emotional affair, or even a physical affair with somebody. And I want you to be able to have a curiosity around it and find out. If there's nothing, then guess what? There's nothing. And then you're able to move forward with a confidence with each other in your relationship. But if there's something, and all of a sudden you're being lied to, it's going to impact you in all aspects of your life, your physical body, your emotional body, your marital relationship, your family with your kids, your spiritual life. It's going to impact you in so many different ways. So I want you to listen to yourself, because I believe that God wants to guide you and direct you so that you don't live in the dark at all.
Wild how our bodies know things before we do. Turns out your beautiful and perfectly designed brain is just doing what it's designed to do, protect you. But when we decide to listen to our bodies and confront the possible betrayal that's standing right in front of us, that can be even scarier. We sat down with Jeremy and Tiana Wiles. They have made it their life mission to help couples confront this betrayal. Jeremy and Tiana have helped millions of men overcome pornography habits and addictions.
We're in church one day, and the pastor is talking about pornography. Now, unfortunately, he didn't give a long sermon on it, because 14 years ago, you didn't hear sermons on pornography.
Yeah.
He was saying 70% of men are struggling with pornography. And I leaned over to Tiana and I said, man, if it's that big of a deal, then let's have the whole sermon on it.
That's right.
So we got in the car, we're driving home. I said, look, why don't we do something about this? If 70% of men are struggling with pornography, why don't we create a series? I said, I call it the Conquer series. Let's help men conquer this in their lives. That helped a couple million lives at this point.
That's right.
Wow. Men have gone through it. Yeah. Now, what she didn't know was this was a secret struggle that I had in my own life. And so I was actually looking for medicine, and it didn't exist.
Yeah, as you both know, that it's addiction is not just one person's problem. It affects the whole family, right? It becomes a family system's problem.
That's right.
And so from then, I too had to go through my own journey, and then we had to fix the marriage.
Tiana, how did that impact you as a wife receiving that information?
Well, that's a very good question, James, because we were just newly weds still at the time. We were just newly married when Jeremy confessed. He was very upfront with me, and that's why I didn't really get affected that much by his confession. I thought it was very honorable. I was deeply hurt. Oh my goodness. I still remember at that point, it was strange. We were on the beach, and he was sharing all this to me. He was crying, and I was just like, I want to kill you, but I love you. It was all that all at once.
Confusing.
But what's interesting is this. I grew up sucking it up. Okay, I just learned to move on from pain. And that's what I did with this. I didn't really allow myself to feel the feelings, but I was kind of like, you forgive, you move on, and that's it. And so that's what I did for a few years. I just kept moving on until a miscarriage happened. And you guys were there. We met you at the time when I had that miscarriage.
Yes.
That was the breaking point for me. Because what a lot of partners don't realize is that when a man is in his addiction is just the top of the iceberg.
Yeah.
There's so much more under the addiction that we have to live with and deal with. It's the addictive mindset.
Yeah.
It's that selfishness, that immaturity, that the whole things that are under there, whether it's anger, isolation, it's distance, it's all of that, rejection. We have to deal with that as partners. And now they were affecting me to my core, and now I felt the full brunt of trauma at that point. When we're not dealing with our own stuff, our own past trauma, whatever our husbands are going through, how they're dealing with things, and if they're not quite there yet, that's gonna impact us. That can trigger us or re-traumatize us.
What Jeremy and Tiana are describing isn't just a theory, it's what they've seen play out thousands of times. We've seen it too. And here's why it matters to you. Understanding that porn addiction often stems from trauma can be the first step toward real healing. Not just for your partner, but for your relationship. Because the betrayal trauma you're experiencing right now, the wounds your partner is trying to medicate, it's all part of a cycle that won't break until both sides find healing, and if they're willing to find healing. If you're watching this, your relationship is likely fractured and you deeply desire to rebuild it. But please know this. You are not responsible for your partner's decisions, their decision to heal or not. You're only responsible for you. And at the same time, remember, even the most amazing transformation stories, including many of the millions of men who got help through Jeremy and Tiana, a lot of them started with some level of reluctance.
Really, it goes back to, this idea that these wounds that are in our past are in our past. They're not in our present. They're not going to impact our future. Our past can set us up to do really stupid things, especially if you haven't dealt with it. Because all of us are wounded to some degree, and they're attached to emotional memories stored in the limbic brain.
Yeah.
The emotional part of our brain. They're called limbic lies. And they're very deeply subconscious and often hard to identify. And because of that, we don't deal with it.
Yeah.
We don't even know they're there half the time. Lies that have formed our beliefs that actually drive our behaviors.
Yeah.
Because what we believe will determine how we behave.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to ask ourselves is, are we believing a truth or a lie?
Yeah.
And we usually get stuck right there because once you start going down that road, it's too scary, it's too ugly. Why am I going to go back? You can't, that person can't connect the past to their present.
Yeah.
And they can't understand, well, how does that impact my present?
Men who are trapped in an addiction to pornography or sexual addiction, when they're confronted by their spouse, what happens is that they become very flustered. They don't know what to say, or they become really angry. They puff up really big so that they can control the environments, and they start to defend themselves, and they lie and they lie and they lie to cover up. And so they start to act like a little 10-year-old or a little 8-year-old little boy. Why would they act like that? Why wouldn't they just man up and be an adult and tell the truth and deal with the issue at hand? Because they were wounded at a very young age. So at a very young age, their emotional state of mind was dented in a way that they couldn't grow anymore emotionally, because that's where their place of trauma or their wound is. But they grew up as a man, and they grew up and they learned behaviors to minimize or to medicate this pain that took place at the age of 8. So the 8-year-old little boy or 10-year-old little boy is always in control of the emotions. And so all of a sudden, when this adult man is confronted with the reality of, are you dealing with pornography? Oh, no, I'm not doing that. And anger comes out. He's responding as a little boy. A little boy is still in charge. So what we have to do is we have to go back into that time of your life and identify that place of woundedness in your life, that trauma. Identify it. Now, why do we want to identify it? So we can blame it? Blame my parents for the crap that they dumped on me and the way they treated me? No. But the bottom line is so many men are responding from this 8 to 10-year-old boy, this place of woundedness here, and they never get a chance to heal here so they can grow up emotionally and deal with the real issues at hand. So they just keep medicating. They find ways to medicate. They medicate it with porn, they medicate it with sex, they medicate it with substance abuse, they medicate it with work, and so they keep on medicating so they never deal with the issue at hand. They just medicate the pain rather than going back to that little boy and saying, hey, you kept me alive during that time, but you know what? I can't keep acting the way you're acting. I need to grow up, and you're holding me back. And so I'm going to relieve you of that responsibility to feel like you got to protect me. And I'm going to ask that you don't come back and you're not in charge any longer. And I'm going to ask that this part of my life, I'm going to meet it and meet that place of who I was as a 10-year-old boy. And I'm going to work on this and work on this and work on this so that this person, as this emotional being, grows up and it meets the physical being of a grown man. And so we have a healthy man, an adult man, meet the healthy emotional person who he is, and they can become one.
Understanding that porn addiction often stems from past trauma does not excuse betrayal, but it does explain why so much work is required to overcome this problem and why remorse or simple willpower can be a start, but not enough to bring actual change.
Through some kind of crisis that happens in your life, you get exposed, your addiction gets exposed, or some kind of tragedy, right?
Yeah.
Then that pain will rouse you from your stupor, so to say. And in so many ways, we look at pain and we want to avoid it when God actually wants us to embrace the pain and find Him in the pain. And it's hard work. But unfortunately, in our world today, we're constantly teaching people to seek quick relief.
That's right.
To medicate, to just find, even like a lot of counseling out there. It's just like, here's a very humanistic, very secular way to handle pain and trauma. And so here's something to help you give quick relief.
We're helping people down a process, essentially. And Conquer series is 10 weeks, and we walk men through this ugly, painful process of unpacking wounds from their past, even identifying these limbic lies that set us up to do stupid things. And say, I actually, if you don't think you're wounded, just go ask your wife if you're wounded. Ask your spouse. You are, And so we're blind to this stuff. And the Conquer series and some other courses that we've created help in that ugly process.
That's right.
And I think one of the things that we've done is we've used neuroscience. We've helped men identify that the problem it starts as a moral problem, but then it becomes a brain problem. And to understand that the brain has somewhat been restructured, injured, whatever, it kind of separates you from the problem, so the problem does not become your identity. You understand, this is something I have to work with. And now, because we're showing that the problem is inside of you, but it's also outside of you, in a sense that you can take a bird's eye view at the problem and then go deep on that, hone in into the areas that need fixed. That's what we do with the Conquer series and Warpath and all these other courses that we have. But it's very Christ-centered. We don't believe that you can just begin healing with secular stuff and sprinkle the Bible on there. It has to have a foundation on the cross.
There's something that keeps coming up in recovery stories, whether it's Russell Brand talking about overcoming heroin addiction, or the millions of men who found freedom through Jeremy and Tiana's program. Yes, therapy helps. Yes, neuroscience is fascinating. And yes, accountability is critical. But there's this deeper thread that runs through almost every lasting transformation story. A relationship with God. It's right there in the foundation of every 12-step program. And understanding that true, lasting change, the kind that rewrites your story, requires something bigger than yourself. This is why James and Terry's approach addresses not just behavioral and emotional aspects of recovery, but the spiritual journey as well.
If you kind of go down the list and you think, I can pretty much say that this is happening in my relationship and I don't know what to do. My first encouragement is, if you have the ability in your relationship to have a discussion around it, a concrete discussion, then of course that's a great place to start.
Well, bottom line is, ask the question of, are you or do you watch pornography in any form?
And, I think if somebody keeps denying that there's something going on, then I think that's when we have to have strong enough boundaries to say, hey, you know what? I think we're going to need to take this to the next level because there's something happening. There's something going on in our relationship. So I think, we're going to need to step into getting some coaching or counseling around this because there's something causing a distance. There's something causing issues in our relationship. And it feels like that's what's happening. And if you're not going to be honest, then that's where we're going to have some help and support. As a family, we have made the decision as a family with the world that we live in to have the protections around our media devices. That's just our commitment. It's a commitment to our family. It's a commitment to our girls when they were living at home. It's a commitment as a family to say, hey, when we have a device that's connected to all aspects of the sexually exploitive content in the world, we're going to have accountability around it. And so we made that commitment as a family. That was a family value. So we really think that there should be a strong emphasis on families in general putting a filter on all of their devices. And that's to help protect you and your children. It's a good thing. So my encouragement would be, hey, if you're not having a problem with pornography and you're not lying about it, and this is, all a mute thing, great, let's put the filters on all of our devices as a family value to protect ourselves and our children, and there shouldn't be a problem with that, right? And so that's kind of one of the ways that we sort of protected our family against the pervasive nature of the sexual exploitation that's going on in our world. Now, let me be really clear. If you have children, it's not an if, it's a when. Because the amount of content on our devices is astronomical. So it's your responsibility as the parent in the home to have protection over that. And it's your responsibility as the parent to be the first to lead the way. Because if we're gonna want our children to be responsible with sexual content, exploitive content, with content that hurts people and hurts the whole fabric of the way that we attach in terms of our connection in a healthy way in relationships, then we have to lead the way. We as adults, we as a married couple should do that. Some places to start is like, hey, let's put filters on our devices as a family. If I'm still feeling the tension in our relationship and I feel like there's maybe a possibility that I might be being lied to, then we need to get some other accountability and support into our relationship, and we need to do that sooner than later. And putting a value on honesty in our home. And I have to have boundaries around that. And if at the end of the day, I find out that my spouse is viewing pornography and doesn't want to be honest about it, then I need to be able to say, hey, this is what I'm okay with and what I'm not okay with in my home.
Maybe you're in the throes of a major conflict in your marriage right now because you have exposed this and it has become a massive issue in your life, and you are dreading the next day that, what are we going to do? Are we going to divorce over this? Are we going to, end this relationship, or do we get help? I want to encourage you, don't sit there any longer. Get help right now. My wife and I had to do this. Now, you don't want to have to wait as long as we did to get help. We waited way too long. Get help now. And it's never too late to get help. I work with people in their 70s that finally come to this place where you say, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to live the rest of my life free from this. Then get help. Call us. Reach out to us. You can go on our website. You can click on there to reach out specifically to say, hey, we need help. And it goes straight to us. And we see that message and we will respond to you so that you are not standing there and finding yourself in a place of loneliness or despair or hopelessness ever again. You can walk with somebody.
There's so much shame around the topic, and there's usually shame around somebody who is trying to hide that kind of behavior. And even though it is extremely hurtful, there's so much pain and confusion and trauma that's associated with being a partner who finds out that someone has been deceiving them or lying to them. And so there's just pain and there's difficulty around the whole thing. But we as an organization, James and I personally, we want there to be a hope-filled discussion around this, because we truly believe that there can be hope and healing for these issues inside of our relationship, especially, and first and foremost individually, and then in our relationships. And so we walk alongside people. We take people through a very systematic way of diving into the why behind the what got a person to that point, how is that impacting their marriage and their family. And a person who has been on the receiving end of that and feels that betrayal trauma, it's, how do we work through the discovery of that? What does it feel like to have that as part of your story? And how do we navigate that? What is repair? How do we navigate repair? What are we going to need in terms of boundaries around this? And eventually, what does trust building look like as we feel safe in that relationship? We know how hard this is, but we also know that there is hope when someone really wants change and someone really wants healing. And so we invite you, if you have questions, you need resources, or if you're looking for somebody to walk alongside of you, we as an organization, we provide that for you.
Hey, before you go, can we talk about what happens after this video ends? Because right now, you might be feeling a mix of relief, I'm not crazy, and overwhelmed. But what do I actually do? It's normal, and that's exactly why James and Terry created What Now? The Couple's Guide to Surviving Crisis in Marriage. It's a program to help you, but it's not your typical course or program promising to fix everything overnight. Instead, it's like having James and Terry right there with you, helping both partners understand exactly what steps to take after betrayal trauma. Look, I get it. When you're in the middle of betrayal trauma, even deciding what to do first can feel impossible. Should you stay? Should you go? What do you tell the kids, your family? How do you even get through tomorrow? This 10-part program tackles all of that. I don't mean to give you a sales pitch, but if you've listened to this episode this far in, this course will probably help you a ton. Whether you're the one who's been betrayed or the one who's caused the hurt, it's designed for both partners because let's be honest, you both need guidance right now. It's in the link in the description for $89. That's less than most therapy copays, and you can start right now, right where you are. And here's something cool. If you later decide you want to work with James or Terry or any of the coaches at Marriage Health, they'll subtract the course cost from your first session because they're not about double charging you. They're about getting you the help that you need when you need it. And if you feel like you need to jump straight into coaching or have someone come alongside you right now, we have a link in the description for that as well. This is Marriage Health with James and Terry Craft.